do they really, have you ever witnessed, like, do you know anyone that really has given an answer?
For like what? Specifically why we sing at church, or?
No, just in general, like all of those things, like, it seems to me they all point to like something deeper. And I feel like people go deep to a degree,
Mm-hmm.
but then they stop. And it's like, if you really look at what we're saying, we're not really offering an explanation. We're just saying this works. We know it works.
Mm-hmm.
So do it.
I mean, Peterson's that Wrestling with God book seems to be that, is like he's working through Old Testament and.
Right. You keep going. I'm going to just adjust you for the podcast.
Yeah, he's just talking about like why we humans think that sacrifice is a thing. Like somehow we think we've got to put in work ahead of time. We've got to sacrifice the present for the future in order to get the benefit of the reward that comes in long term.
Yeah, but did he answer why we think that? Again, he's just noticing it works. But when you really dig into like, well, why? Because I always think about like Hoffman's research and the idea, the paradox of truth, that like we're evolutionarily programmed to survive,
mm-hmm.
and we're completely not programmed to seek truth. But we do seek truth because when you do align with the truth, you feel good.
Mm-hmm.
You feel better. But it doesn't, but that doesn't, that just comes down to like, well, it works. So why go to confession? Well, it works. Why go to a therapist? It works. Why talk about your problems?
Mm-hmm.
But why would that work? It seems counterintuitive to what we're hardwired to be, actually. We're hardwired to just survive for tomorrow, not hardwired to seek the truth. Does that make sense?
It does. I don't know if I'm tracking completely, because I'm kind of like, well, this sort of sounds like a kid asking why.
Yeah.
Because like confession, for instance, face value, especially not growing up Catholic, I'm like, seems like you could just, if you're a believer, you just confess upward,
mm-hmm.
and that's it. But there does seem to be something to saying something audibly out loud
mm-hmm.
to another person that absolves you and like provides some kind of psychological relief. And so why, like, are you asking why, like,
yeah, like the hammer or the nail that stands up gets hammered down.
mm-hmm.
So if Christ taught us anything, it was, if you tell the truth, you'll be killed.
Yeah.
But then it's, you have to tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
That's my whole point about everything he was saying, was like in scripture, we should exist counterintuitive to everything that like nature is pushing us towards. And I'm just saying that from our perspective, like that's true, that exists, but it shouldn't exist because, well, short of that, I guess that's where Revelation starts to make more sense, because you go, well, we shouldn't have come up with this idea.
Okay.
Like based on the way that humans behave, like we shouldn't seek the truth.
So it's that same sort of like, you hear it on Rogan all the time where they go like, well, did some aliens come down and like push us forward?
Yes, panspermia.
Like, so is that what the kind of answer you're asking for? Like for when you say why? Like,
I'm just pointing out that, I guess I'm trying to make the point that like we all stop somewhere with these belief systems. And I do think, I don't think we really understand what's going on.
Yeah.
I wish we did, but I really don't. I think that there's many like metaphysical truths that just, they don't make sense, but I understand why I understand the outcome of why we do them. I'm talking about like fundamental reality. Why would we do them?
Okay.
Because if you peel back the layers far enough, it doesn't logically make sense that you would tell the truth. It actually makes sense that you would not tell the truth. And then this guy comes along named Jesus, well, other people too, but like in that case, he's like, tell the truth. And even the way he says, like, and if you do, you're going to suffer more than you've ever suffered in your entire life. Then everyone decides, well, for whatever reason, sure, that's what we're going to do. And it actually seems to work, even though, I don't know if that makes sense or not, but I think at the base level, we all stop at some point and we don't understand exactly why these things work.
No, I would agree with that. Yeah.
Why is something evil or why is something good? They are different things and we all know it.
Right. Yeah.
And why exactly?
I guess I was getting hung up on like what answer would satisfy you.
I don't think there is an answer.
Okay,
I know it's an impossible question, but like when you look at like, so the example, I'm not going to put this in the podcast, but like why you would sing in church. I think the best I could say is, well, singing these words with intention somehow has an effect. It's obviously a physical thing and it's a metaphysical thing. So the physical aspect is our bodies, biological breathing, the physics of the room, the physics of the vibrations of what's going on. But there's the intentionality of the words that we're singing. So you could be singing something evil.
Yeah.
That's like clearly anyone would argue like that's evil, but you could also sing something that's holy and good. And so what exactly is going on when we're saying someone walks into a church and you go, okay, do these physical things and think these intentional metaphysical thoughts, and those things together align you with God.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very bizarre thing to really think of it in that way. And then we do that over thousands of years and we don't really understand why. They're just, it's a combination of all those things, but we do know it works. And we know that if you do the opposite, evil thoughts, evil words, like all of that.
Yeah.
And then you can look at the outcomes and, it's not the same thing, I guess is the point. Like if you embrace that evil or you embrace that virtue and holiness, they clearly lead to different outcomes. And why exactly that would be the case is a mystery because we haven't been given the answer. I mean, or I don't know the answer. I mean, maybe you know the answer, but
no,
we've been doing it.
The thing I hung on to out of all that you said was like, we all stop at certain points.
Yeah.
And it is that like many people stop at, I grew up kneeling at this time, singing at that time. I grew up, everybody raises their hands. And when we sing.
If you did it long enough and it didn't seem to work, you'd probably eventually just,
Yeah.
And that's when you stop going to a church.
And
you stop.
Most people that grow up in church have some kind of period of that late teens, early adulthood. Then many people come on back to it.
Yeah, you're young and foolish, and then.
But in terms of like, I do, that resonates with me that people stop at some point. Mm-hmm. And it's because you have to get back to whatever you're doing.
You got to get to work.
You can't, and that's like, why you can keep going, why, and at first,
it's turtles all the way down.
It is. Well, I mean, when you were saying, nobody asks why, I thought, I don't know. I mean, we both read books where people dive into the mechanics behind that. But I mean, it's like, how far do you want to get into specifically the mechanics?
I would like to go all the way down.
I'm not asking about that. I know you would like to go all the way down on that, but the analogy I'm making is like, to drive here, you didn't do all of the research necessary to make your specific model of car operate.
That's Hoffman.
Okay.
So that's his research. And he's saying this interface exists because the complexity of navigating fundamental reality is just too complicated.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't get anywhere done. If I said, so Hoffman's research, if we're podcasting at this point, the example he uses would be like a laptop. And so he's saying that your body is just an interface for reality. And you could say, Dave, send an email on this laptop. And you would, type it out and hit send. And you go, did you send an email? And you say, no, you didn't. You typed on a keyboard and hit send.
Mm-hmm.
But if you had to actually navigate the complexity of the hardware and the software and the internet and everything
Right, yeah.
it takes to send that email, you wouldn't even know where to begin.
Right.
Like if I took away the computer and said, send an email, what would you do?
I'd call
You'd
you an
have to
asshole,
start.
yeah.
We'd start building microchips, and you'd take forever just to get one little thing done. So that's what he's saying. That our bodies have evolved. Like that's what our bodies are, is just an interface for reality, and it's only evolved over time to see and observe what's necessary to survive for tomorrow. But that doesn't mean that that is the full spectrum of reality. In fact, you know that it's definitely not the full spectrum of reality. So there's a reality way beyond what we can observe with our senses that we know exists in some ways, light spectrum and, sound spectrum, like all these different, there's more to reality than we can observe with our senses, but how far does that go? And even if you get into like space and time, and we're limited to this planet, and like, what is space? And like, we haven't even explored that, so you don't even know. But anyway, this
does tie in with
the topic of today.
About. Yeah.
In what way do you think?
For a number of reasons. One, talking about. So my understanding is we're going to talk about, to some degree, we're going to talk about the Age of Disclosure documentary, and also just kind of the media discussion.
Well, and Disclosure Day, and the overlap of the documentaries, government, congressional hearings, and then Hollywood blockbuster film happening to all kind of parrot the same stuff.
So, you've seen the Age of Disclosure?
No, I haven't. I've seen Disclosure Day.
Okay.
But you've seen Age of Disclosure.
No, but what I thought was funny is, as we're talking about, we have different levels of degrees of how far we dive into why. I went so far as to listen to most of the podcast from the producer of Age of Disclosure.
What's his name?
Dan Farah.
Yes.
So he was on Rogan, and I went back and listened to us talking about the what was that? The congressional hearing for Disclosure, where we had they had Fravor and Grush and Ryan Graves on. So I did a little bit of research, but then last night I thought, I should watch that Age of Disclosure, so I'm really up to speed, and it cost maybe $3.
It was enough.
And I was like,
that was enough. I want to get to the truth of things, but
and I sat there and really went through the thought process of, this might shed some light on everything. It could be the key to a lot. I mean, we're talking about, the Secretary of State getting into why he's willing to be on a film like this. And I can't part with $3 to do it. So then I watched Sopranos like I do most every night. And I just thought that's a weird thing. But part of the reason you come back to, rightfully so, all the time going, why is nobody making a big deal of this? And that conversation comes up a lot with Dan Farah and other people. And why has this been so dismissed? And I think part of it is how much do we really believe is going to be disclosed? Which I hopefully I'm barking up the same tree you are with that. For the longest time now, tinfoil hat people that are into conspiracy theories have been scratching at the surface. Please let us in, please let us in, please let us in. And then all of a sudden, the very people that were going, well, if they would just be honest, they go, you know what, you're right, we're going to tell you everything and we're going to make a movie about it. All of a sudden you're like, well, wait a minute,
I didn't think this was going to come on Amazon. I thought,
this doesn't seem like how they would do it. So is that kind of where you're at with that?
That's exactly right. And just to bring everyone up to speed, today we're talking about Disclosure Day and Age of Disclosure, this bizarre, it's Spielberg's film, but also that overlapping with a lot of what's been happening really over the past 10 years, but I mean, you could go all the way back to 1947. It's been happening, but it started to ramp up And I really noticed it in 2017 when we were just talking, and the New York Times released a bunch of footage that they claimed were, released video footage of UFO encounters, UAP encounters. At that time, I pulled Dave aside and was like, I think I was freaking out. I don't know. I was just like, am I the only one seeing this? Like, this is crazy. Like, family dinners, and nobody cared. Nobody seemed to care that the Pentagon was saying that, UFOs are flying in our airspace and there's nothing we can do about it. But that's like slowly ramped up over the last 10 years. Yeah. And all leading up to like this last month, Spielberg releasing this new film called Disclosure Day. And I went and saw it. So spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it, you don't want to listen to this podcast, because I do want to talk about like what's in the film and why it's just this bizarre boomer intelligence propaganda film that's just like, it makes no sense, the script wise. And also what struck me so much about it was what is happening in real life on the internet over the last 10 years and through Congress and other documentaries, pseudo, real life stories. And then you have this big Hollywood film that's basically about what we're witnessing with everything from To the Stars Academy to Age of Disclosure and what's happening right now, even to today, to like, I think this week, like more hearings from Congress and the Pentagon slowly releasing every few months these documents and files and claiming all kinds of bizarre stuff that I just think I guess that's the question in this podcast as we talk about it, is like, is that just a coincidence? That's the interesting thing about Spielberg and Hollywood, is like, is it just a coincidence that this is all happening right now? Or does this seem like an orchestrated intelligence operation that we're all being kind of drawn into through the, cameras and the phones and stuff?
Yeah, I do think it's orchestrated to some degree. Also, in the interest of disclosure, I didn't realize this was a film that came out. I thought you were talking about the documentary.
So you didn't know about the Disclosure Day film?
I'm like Googling Disclosure Day, like,
this would be perfect.
Exactly.
Then.
So
you truly have no back. You didn't know that was a film?
I'm going to bite the bullet for all the listeners, and I'm going to let you spoil it for me.
Okay.
So I'm not worried about any of this.
But you had no idea that he released a new film?
No, just now as you're talking, I was like, oh crap, I was completely off on like what I thought. I can still.
That brings the whole thing together even more, though, because it's such a hot topic on so many different channels that you were even confused about like, there's a Spielberg movie mixed in with this. I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, but it is like there's plenty of content out that if you want to like talk about disclosure, like every podcast is talking about disclosure. The word disclosure is everywhere, and yeah, like. These documentary filmmakers and things they're all over every podcast. Yeah. I mean,
it's a profitable business.
Like you sent me that,
which could be what's going on.
Well, yeah, right. That's pretty wild. And like you sending me that Hannity link, I just thought like it's wild that they've got like quote unquote grown-ups, like the dude from Fox News. Because my introduction to Sean Hannity was like AM talk radio 15 years ago. So yeah, at that time, if you would have told me that he would be doing a podcast on YouTube with a couple of guys about UFOs,
a congressman from Kentucky and a spook from the CIA,
and talking about it in a way like it's like pretty normal stuff.
Yeah,
that's weird, but
that's kind of what I want to try to establish in this podcast. And this is what I've been trying at family dinners and everywhere I go, where I'm like, all right, I'm not crazy, but you guys need to understand what's going on here. I think, if I could offer one bit of advice to any true conspiracy dads out there, if you go and you look up James Corbett's How to Fake an Alien Invasion from about 10 years ago, he put that out. It's on YouTube. You can look it up easily. And when I watched that 10 years ago, I just want you to watch it and try to think back on where your head was at with all of these subjects 10 years ago, because he makes really a strong case that it's clearly propaganda. It's clearly a psychological operation for whatever, ends. I don't know, but nobody took it seriously, even though he establishes they've been talking about this since 1950. Like, they will not shut up. It's a weird subject where they act like it's top secret and you're not supposed to know about it. But then if you go back and you look at the history of decade after decade of news story after news story of just constantly talking about UFOs, it's very strange because it's not a top secret subject. You, like you said, you're listening to a Hannity clip, and they're talking about like this, like it's a big secret, and these, congressmen and women are going and doing every podcast and every interview, and they're constantly talking about it. So, well, which is it? Is it top secret or is it not top secret? And maybe it's just to make us talk about this top secret thing. I think it's important to me to think back to that video, because you have to admit that the spirit, what you were just saying about Hannity, like that has shifted dramatically.
Oh yeah.
And like Hannity would never have said anything he said in that interview, like when he was on Fox. So that's true too. He's on YouTube, so he's not on Fox. Mm-hmm. He's able to say whatever he wants. And he's saying stuff that if he had said it on Fox, he would have been canned.
The other thing I've noticed, like, not just from that Hannity clip, but other interviews lately is, there's this idea that the old thinking was, well, if we disclose about UFOs and aliens, then that's going to like unravel the fabric of all of the generations of spirituality and religion in the, in the Western world. And over yesterday, as I'm like finding things to listen to and checking out, I just kept hearing people like, well, I'm a Christian and I don't think that this necessarily undoes everything that goes with that belief system. And I just thought like to your point, like, well, this is popping up a lot. All of a sudden now, like anybody that's trying to like sway the opinion is kind of like trying to like massage the idea of if you believe in God, you can also hold this in your hand too.
It's a talking point. And that is at the heart of Spielberg's theme too.
It makes it like less of a fringe subject and more of a main public narrative sort of thing. Like it just makes it less stigma and more like now you can bring it up at church or like, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you.
I think the question then would be, is that organic or is that by design?
Yeah, I don't know.
I would say it's definitely by design because people are parroting the same talking points. Now, by design, I don't mean necessarily that it's a big conspiracy. It just means that you've all been consuming the same podcasts and videos and documentaries, and you're hearing the same talking points. Okay, an example would be this. Excuse me. But 10 years ago, when Tom DeLonge launches To the Stars Academy, and when they launched that, they had a big YouTube event. And it's the most bizarre thing if you can look it up on the internet, because it's Tom DeLonge on a stage. Clearly there's no audience. It's just a big production with all of these people from different intelligence backgrounds. Now they've since like reworked this organization and scrubbed much of what they were saying at that time. But at that time, that was the idea was like, I'm forgetting my train of thought of where I was going with that.
Well, it's Tom DeLonge. They're getting ready to do this release. And you were saying like, the odd thing about it is what struck out to me was they're in an empty room doing this release.
Yeah. No, or is it organic or is it orchestrated? Yeah, okay. And it's like clearly orchestrated because it's like, it's a fake thing. Like there's no audience there. And it's like, it's media that is, I mean, I don't think that you have to be in a conspiracy if everybody's just getting fed those same, it was a main talking point. So sorry, I'm still waking up. an example would be like a term used in all of these talking points. One would be like in that briefing, or in that, it's not a briefing, it's like it's propaganda, but they start using the word skiff. Even when Tom DeLonge goes on Rogan, he's going out of his way. You can go back and watch that too. He's like explaining, you know what a skiff is? You know what a skiff is, right? Skiff.
That is like the first
prior
everybody
to that,
heard of it. Yeah.
Nobody was saying skiff. It wasn't a part of our normal language. And fast forward to today, in any of these circles and what they're talking, they literally keep saying skiff over and over. All of these congressmen is like skiff, 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 skiff. And it's not like they were pulled aside and said, you need to start talking about skiff, but that's where language and media starts to, it's that, neurological programming that's happening, and you start using a word and a phrase or whatever. So it doesn't have, I guess that's my point, is it doesn't have to be like a cabal. It's, you're all staring into the same screens, and we can program you to think and say what we want you to think and say. And that's an example of it. And now everyone says skiff. I mean, I don't think I ever heard anyone say skiff prior to the Stars Academy back in 2017. Mm-hmm. I didn't heard anyone say the word skiff. I mean,
yeah. And the way that Tom DeLonge talked about it was, it's not like he went to the first skiff in the history of. No,
it's almost like he was told, you need to go on Rogan and start injecting things like skiff into the conversation.
Yeah, right. Because it sounds like a skiff is a thing that has been part of the government and the intelligence.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's not a thing.
Right. No, I just think with you that, oh no, you
10 years ago, if you said that, most people would go, what's a skiff?
Why in the alien conversation that's been happening, with Art Bell and everything for the last 3 or 4 decades, why did skiff never come up until Tom DeLonge mentions it, and now it's it's part of the nomenclature?
Well, so do you want me to dive into Disclosure Day, and then we can kind of just piece it? And I just, you can go watch it. There's a lot of great reviews on it, but I think it is relevant because of, the size of it, the impact of it. And what we're going to do is just I'll go through it and then talk about how that is bizarre in relation to everything else that's happening right now. And I guess everyone can decide, do you think that's organic, or do you think we're all being neurologically programmed through our devices to think a thing that might at the end of the day be smoke and mirrors, and there's absolutely nothing to any of it. So Disclosure Day, first of all, is just a terrible film. It's poorly written. It has some good acting. It has some good film to it as well, but also, I don't know, there was a lot of things in it that I thought was a bit lazy. But the biggest thing that stood out to me was the gaps, the logical gaps in the screenplay itself that just don't. It's either propaganda, or it could be other things, like maybe you become such a big director that everyone tells you that your idea is awesome, even if it's like somebody should have stepped in and said that doesn't actually make any sense. So the general story is a woman who's a TV weather anchor at a local Kansas City, Missouri station basically starts having this bizarre experience, and is related to another character in the film who's working with a defense contracting company. Anyway, she starts like downloading, intelligence of some kind that she can't understand. And fast forward.
When you say downloading, you mean like she's getting messages?
Yeah,
from
like
the universe?
she goes from like normal to like all of a sudden she can speak Russian and all these other languages, and she's got all these ideas, and now she can just look at people and she can read their minds and know what they're talking about. And she's trying to navigate all of that. And she's a great actress and she does a great job at it. But the behind all of that is this idea that this other guy has this bag full of hard drives with all of the footage from, these crash retrieval programs. And he's just trying to get it out to the world because he thinks that we all need to know the truth and be disclosed that aliens have been here for a long time and the government's been hiding all of this from us. The biggest thing about it that stands out to you right away is that he has the bag full of hard drives, and it's like, well, you could just plug it into your computer and upload it to Reddit or something. Yep. Like, did you really need a 2.5 hour film to do that? Like, first 5 minutes, I have all the hard drives. Okay, let's upload them. We can't. We got to go on a lot of chases first, and there has to be a lot of back and forth. So that didn't make a lot of sense. But even the boomer propaganda side of it is like this idea. The other big flaw was that it all builds up to, well, they need to get the hard drives, and they need to get to the news station, and then they need to get this woman on air to go live and explain this all to the world, and then just upload all of these videos where then their East Coast affiliates will then broadcast it to the whole world, and everybody at the same time will be watching all of these alien videos, and they'll understand disclosure. And, it ends with just a bizarre message of like, almost like telling us what to do. Spoiler again, the last line is the alien is in the shot and says, "Listen." That's it. Listen. You need to listen is what they're saying. So anyone that's just, when was the last time you tuned into a local news station to get the most breaking international story?
Yeah. Well, it is like specifically, you're right. Why wouldn't you go on Reddit and upload it everywhere you can that you could already upload it?
Or I mean, they even had like the whole buildup at the end was to like the defense contractors like cutting the power to the news station, and they just can't get it to go on. And it's like, could you just hold up your phone and go live on YouTube?
Yeah, right.
Like, it's almost like, that's what I mean by the writers of the film. When I took screenwriting classes, my teachers would have ripped that to shreds right away and said, like, this is just the dumbest. Yeah, exactly that. Well, why wouldn't you just pull out your phone? Why do you need to go to the news station? And I think you could ask, well, is Spielberg that out of touch with reality? Or is this propaganda? And is this trying to tell us you need to listen to Sean Hannity? Yeah. You need to listen to, some other, whoever, I don't know, CNN.
Bill O'Reilly.
Don Lemon, whoever.
Or who's the one that Trump always talks about that he likes?
Hannity or Glenn Beck or any of those guys.
Whenever he's talking about the Iran war, he always goes, I like this guy.
Pet Hegseth. I don't know.
Maybe that's it.
That's... So I guess you could watch the film and take all this in, but maybe we could talk more about like what's really going on there. Like why would they make a film like that at the same time that if you go to the Pentagon's website right now, war.gov, it has a tab there that says UFO. Mm-hmm. And while they're releasing this blockbuster film that's basically telling the story of what's happening at the Pentagon, is that organic or is that orchestrated? I think it's clearly orchestrated. Does I guess, what do you think? Do you think Spielberg thinks that people really, like, would he make $115 million film just to try to tell people to watch CNN and Fox?
Well, it is interesting to me that you use the phrase boomer propaganda. And I'm like, a lot of times when we get into this disclosure conversation, I try to think, what would it take for me to believe what's going on? And we've grown up in America over the last couple decades, and like the idea is, well, yeah, we need to see a news anchor say it. and we're always picturing like Independence Day, like the president doing a press release behind the thing. As you're talking about it, they go on some chases and they got to get to the news station to upload the files, and it was making me think of Elf, where they're at the end of the movie, the news anchors.
That's exactly it. Yeah. And then Santa Claus.
And that's how they finally figure out that Santa Claus is real. And to your point, like, now, I don't know, Spielberg seems like a much more sophisticated filmmaker.
I think he is.
And he would surround himself with people that would push back on the idea, and they would make a film that was more plausible if that's what they were doing. Like,
so why? Like you said, so then why the other?
There could be a much more interesting way to go about disclosing this, and it would look something like possibly like what you're talking about, just uploading it, and then there's some chases after it gets uploaded, or
there's moments in the film where they clearly could have taken the writing in a more interesting way, but they didn't, because it's meant to mimic exactly what's happening in the news right now. Like, an example would be they get to the end and there's like an insider from this defense contractor who has been working with the aliens to orchestrate all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And clearly there's another guy at the defense contractor who's really trying to stop this from happening. And there's a moment that leads up where you're like, maybe the defense contractor has a good point, and maybe these aliens have been manipulating you, and maybe you're about to do something that you really shouldn't do for humanity's sake. Well, it would have been a more interesting film if they flipped it and then, at the end, the aliens are evil.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But instead they flipped it and they're benevolent and we should all just listen. I don't know. It's, I think it's not, I think you're right. I don't think that Spielberg is an idiot. I think that it's incredibly sad that this would be kind of his final, big film would be just government, intelligence propaganda to try to push back to James Corbett's, if you watch his How to Fake an Alien Invasion, that's what it looks like to me. It looks like, War of the Worlds and like, not the film that he made, but like that broadcast going out to kind of test the waters and go, well, how are people going to respond to this?
Well, part of my thinking with like, well, what would it take for everybody to really believe that this is going on? I thought, like, as we're talking about this, and I was thinking about the wrong film. We talk about the president behind a podium and addressing the American people. We have visitors. There is life outside of the planet. And I thought, well, this is funny. Like, we've slowly gone on this arc from, it was like in like offbeat books and late night radio shows to like, then it got on podcasts and discussed more and more. And now Sean Hannity's talking about it. And then I was like, oh, that's funny. Marco Rubio, you can't get much closer to the president being behind a podium.
He's in age of disclosure.
And, yeah, exactly. So that's my point, is like, we're bumping right up against what people would talk about it being the real thing, as far as like what we would imagine the disclosure being. And yeah, we're not quite watching Fox News, or like even better, like even more like what we would traditionally think is like an NBC or a CBS, like Dan Rather style guy saying this, disclosing and cutting to the president behind the deal. But my point is just like, well, we're really getting, we're just shy of what people would think of as the standard.
It might be working though, because since I've been freaking out about this, probably for the past 2 months, really since the Pentagon started releasing all of the files, which if you haven't been to the Pentagon's website, go to war.gov, go to the UFO files. So you can download them all, start going through them. It's bizarre because they're all grainy videos. They could all be fake. It could all be, some of them are things that people have known for a long time. They're, releasing, photos and audio archives of the Apollo missions, whatever that was, that are implying that we did encounter UFOs. They're being very explicit about like, hey, these guys were on the moon and they saw some lights and that's a ship up there. And if you zoom in on this photo, you can see it. And, that's, it's just so, to me, when I'm saying like, hey, like this should be concerning. Like the fact that is our Pentagon's website. And I don't find many people that are concerned at all. Like when I bring it up in a setting, I say like all that, and I go, don't you see how crazy this is? And they say the same thing. They say, well, it wouldn't surprise me. And I just think it would surprise me a lot. Like it was really surprising.
It's almost like when they say it wouldn't surprise me, like you're not really thinking of the gravity of what all that would mean. Which was interesting, like, switching gears a little bit to say I'm talking about the documentary specifically, not the feature
Age of
film.
Disclosure. Yeah.
So as I'm switching gears, I just want to be clear.
It's the same film. It's really that's my point. Is it's the same film.
The ramifications of this are different. Like I hadn't thought about a lot of them, and even on the way here, I'm listening, and they talk about, like, for instance, like one example would be a soldier who comes into contact with an alien craft. It gets exposure to radiation, develops this rare form of cancer and dies.
Christopher Nolan's work is what you're talking about.
Well, this was like, probably
it's a case,
that.
Though,
so there's there's this case, but like this is kind of like an anecdotal there are things like this, and then for this one example, put alongside it all of the other cases that would be very similar, where you go, okay, well, this soldier contracts cancer, dies. The government comes clean and says, you know what? We have had aliens. We've known about them since World War II. We've been lying about it this whole time. You know, we told you we were spending money about all that. That's not actually where all that money was going. And a lot of people were working on alien stuff, but we didn't tell them that's what they were working on.
Bob Lazar and all those people, yeah.
So then let's say you're the widow of this soldier. You go, well, I'm suing somebody over this because he died of cancer. They exposed him to radioactive. But like, multiply that times everybody that was somehow involved wittingly or unwittingly in all of this.
Yeah, and I guess that might be the argument from a lot of the defense side, is that you just can't start unraveling that, because
it leads to a lot of like just unforeseen consequences just in the world that we know of. Not to mention, like, well, now what does that mean for us going on cruises now that we know that there are UFOs flying around us?
And that sounds bizarre, but that is what our Congress, it's not all of them, but like guys like Marco Rubio, that is what they're saying. They're implying that we have, let's be very clear, what they're implying from the Pentagon, and it's very bizarre because they're not coming out and like really hard, like affirmatively saying, but they're not just implying that UFOs have been seen here and there. They're saying that we have 12 different spaceships from other planets. That's what guys like Lou Elizondo, Tim Burchett, Eric Burleson, I believe is the other congressman who's involved, Luna Polina. They're implying that, they're saying that we have identified 4 different non-human species of intelligent life, that we might or might not have dead and living bodies of these creatures. Now, it's not me saying that. That sounds crazy, because it is crazy, but that's what they're saying. And that's where my concern is, like, this is not, it's either something or it's nothing.
So,
or I guess it could be in between. It could be something and nothing mixed in with a bunch, real stuff mixed in with fake stuff. But either way, isn't that the most insane, extreme thing that a government could be claiming?
Yeah.
It's like, I told a friend to think of it this way. Imagine that you're at a White House press briefing and they step to the podium and they say, hey, we've secretly been working on the genetic technology that Michael Crichton wrote about in Jurassic Park. And we have actually perfected it, and we have bred a T-Rex. We have a full-grown T-Rex at a zoo at Area 51 in the desert. And what would your reaction, if you could imagine, like no way, like that's crazy. Yeah, right. And then you said, can we see the T-Rex? And they said, no, I'm sorry, it's top secret.
Yeah, you have to be in a skiff for that.
You got to be in a skiff for that. And you go, can we see something? And they said, well, here's some grainy videos at a distance. You can barely make out what the T-Rex looks like, but that's all we can give you. And you go, come on, you have a T-Rex. You got 4K camera in your pocket. Can you just take a video of the T-Rex and show us so that we can see this amazing, feat? And they say, sorry, it's top secret. So would anybody believe that? Or we just go, you don't have a freaking T-Rex.
Which is why I didn't pay the $3 to watch the documentary, because I go, I don't really believe they're going to tell you whatever it is you think you'd like to find out from them.
So your gut instinct is propaganda.
Yeah. And I think that's why, last night really was a little bit of a a breakthrough for me. When you keep banging your head against the wall and going, why is nobody talking about? Why doesn't anybody care about this? And I think that generally speaking, most people are the same way, where they're like, I just don't think that, I think it's going to be much ado about nothing. But
I would say that is my other point, is that I think that we are all under mass hypnosis.
Yeah.
Because when someone tells you something truly unbelievable and your reaction is that, which is almost like, it wouldn't surprise me, but you have zero evidence to actually support that. My theory is, I think that through this media, through the age of disclosure, through everything that's been going on over the past 60 years, they have slowly brainwashed all of us to believe something is possible that maybe it's true, but to this day, I have zero evidence like we don't actually have any evidence of it. It's just, we've watched all the movies and the TV shows, and we've just like slowly developed this idea in our head. And we really haven't stopped to like think, what have you really seen with your own two eyes that's verifiable?
Yeah. Not a whole lot. Just,
I mean, I've seen orb lights in the sky, but that doesn't, I don't know what that is.
Even the people that talk about being in the know oftentimes are like, well, I haven't actually touched the thing.
Yeah. No, the congressman, like even Burchett and Burleson, all of them, they'll talk about it till the cows come home, and then they'll
always
get, have you ever actually seen a UFO? No,
but I did talk to a very credible guy. Just take my word for it that he's credible. I'm a politician. You can believe me when I say this guy's credible.
Well, I will say this. I have talked to a lot of people that have seen UFOs, and I do think UFOs are a thing. I have seen UFOs multiple times. Now, by saying that, I am not saying that I've seen alien spaceships from another planet. I've seen some sort of craft in the sky that I cannot personally identify. I interviewed Jim Bridenstine a couple years ago, and that was the first thing I asked him was like, bro, tell me about the UFOs. And even he, when he was head of NASA, said he's a pilot too. And he said, yeah, I've seen things in the airspace that I couldn't tell you what it was. But he was adamant. He said, but even being in the positions I was in, I know that there are black ops programs that I would not have been read into. And there are things in the sky that I just wouldn't have known. I haven't been informed on what that is because of security reasons. And great, that's coming straight from... That's great. The only concerning thing is, as of 2.5 months ago, now NASA is releasing stuff from past missions and implying that that is not true at all. They're implying that they've had lots of encounters with UFOs and that those UFOs are not us, that there's something else, which runs against what Bridenstine said. So, I mean, I think that Bridenstine was being perfectly frank with me when he said that. And I do think that goes back to, hey, go watch this video, How to Fake an Alien Invasion from 10 years ago, because the zeitgeist 10 years ago was there's nothing here.
Yeah.
And then the zeitgeist now is everything is here.
I got to pee.
Okay. Pause. So always lose train of thought after a pee break, but that's okay.
I know. But I was losing train of thought. Right up leading up.
It's good. It's good. We need to transition because I think people get generally what we're talking about as far as trying to bring them up to where we are, pointing out that it's clearly not an organic thing, all of this happening. I think that there could be truth mixed in with fiction. I think it's clearly a mix. Guys like Lou Elizondo, it's funny, since he came out with To the Stars, I was telling a friend, like, I don't know what it is, but he just sounds like he's bullshitting me. Like, I don't know if what he's saying is true or not, but I know people that are full of shit and they talk exactly like how he talks. And so is he full of shit? I don't know. But how do we, I think we all should just be very skeptical of anything that we're being told, because it's like when you're in a river and that current is speeding up, you just don't realize how fast it's moving until you turn around and start going the other way. And so turn around and go the other way with Corbett's How to Fake an Alien Invasion, and you'll immediately realize, like, oh shit, we are moving fast. And they are saying a lot of stuff that if you're gonna make those claims, we need a lot of evidence. One of the things that is really bizarre about this subject is that many of the people in Age of Disclosure, not so much in Disclosure Day, but that talk about this, say that at high levels in our government and in defense, that for a long time we haven't pursued this subject because they believe that they are not aliens, that they're angels and demons. And that's a wild thing to think about. But even like J.D. Vance the other day was in a podcast and they asked him, what are he's just very he's great at talking and people love, like he's just so likable in a lot of ways. But if you stop and go, what on earth is this guy saying? He said, oh, I don't think they're aliens necessarily. I think they're probably demons. Like what? And just him saying that by itself would be kind of an odd statement, but I think you have to put into context. Go look at the website of the Pentagon right now. Like, is he unaware of what everyone else in his Defense Department is doing, or Department of War is doing right now? Like, that's a very strange thing to say, even though I don't know if that might be a great interpretation of it, but that's not what, a lot of other people are saying. That's not what these congressmen are being briefed on and told, like, yeah, that might be what's going on. I don't know. It's just a bizarre, I don't know what the UFO phenomenon is, but just as of today, I think you and I have zero evidence of aliens and a long religious tradition history of angels and demons. Like, that kind of goes through any religious tradition, has some sort of like spiritual, angelic, story to it. So maybe that is what's going on. It's just bizarre to hear people actually say it and to like go, wait, are you saying that aliens have spaceships and they fly around in those? What does that mean? I don't know. What do you think?
One thing that crossed my mind is like, I didn't start noticing the angels and demons idea until about the same time as skiffs came up. And to me, it parallels like, well, if you're going to get the boomers on board, then the ones that don't want to believe in aliens,
you have to make it
they're
religious.
They're going to go for angels and demons. All of it just is. You can't trust any of these guys. That's all we talk about. That's what this podcast is us saying you can't believe JD Vance or anybody else that's on a screen that's a politician, because they're especially somebody like JD Vance who, you're right. Like, when I listen to him, I find him pretty naturally likable. Even if like I go to watch a clip of him, before I watch it, I think this guy's full of it. I don't like him. In the middle of it, I'm like, yeah, this kind of makes sense.
That's a good politician.
He's the kind of guy that can say something is a demon and get away with it with a lot of people. And so I say all that to say, career politicians are highly adept at, saying what they know you want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And so bear that in mind when they're throwing ideas like aliens, demons around, that sort of thing. Also, I don't know. Maybe it's because I've read Orwell and got all geeked out on it, but it does seem like, just like the conspiracy theories around like 9/11 are predicated on like, well, that got us into the war with Iran, WMDs, and it also like created this new budget for terrorist.
Well, that's my fear of what's going on.
Yeah, okay,
is that you're weaponizing.
Yeah,
you could say maybe there's a natural phenomenon.
Yeah, right.
That we have always called angels and demons, and it's a spiritual aspect of reality. Maybe a Defense Department knows that that's a real phenomenon, and now we're turning it into something else that can be used to justify spending on.
Yeah.
Well, now we all need to go to war with the Zeta Reticula or whoever it might be, and like
This is completely what happens in 1984.
Yes, it is.
Is we are all of a sudden, everybody's at war and we only believe what the one screen says. And then even in 1984, like the narrator talks about, the enemy changes in the middle of a grandstanding speech. Whoever's up giving they're rallying the crowd. The Russians are bad, the Russians are bad, the Russians are bad. And almost mid-sentence, they get handed a piece of paper and they go, those darn Chinese, the Chinese are bad, the Chinese are bad, the Chinese are bad. And this, to me, is like, I'm glad.
It's perfect for that.
I'm glad that.
Because you could just go planet to planet to planet. You know what I mean? The enemies could never end.
Yeah, well, and they have already got us thinking along those lines, because they go, All right, fine, all you crazy tinfoil hat people and anybody else that happens to be listening. Yes, there are aliens. And okay, fine, you got us. They're not just aliens above us, there's probably aliens below us. And there's not just one type of aliens. There's actually like 5 type of aliens. There's the Greys, there's the Nordics, there are these, they're the ones that they're putting the little ET shaped people in that are kind of like, they're more like robots, they're biological robots. The point being, like you said, I think possibly they recognized a natural social phenomenon that was gaining some traction just in the public narrative. And I thought, whoa, well, if there were a War of the Worlds scenario, that would be a pretty good excuse to create a new government program.
Even Reagan is quoted saying that, like back in the day. He gives a whole speech about I often think about if we were faced with an imminent threat from an outside, alien force, how quickly we would forget about all of our differences and come together in one world government, yada, yada, yada.
That sounds great by itself. We would all come together. But yeah, exactly. That also means we're all together.
Well, and the reason that I'm always truly skeptical of it is that it is the ultimate chess move. Like if you're thinking, I'm on this planet and how do you chess move control the planet? You have to go off the planet. You know what I mean? Like the other night my wife and I were looking at the moon and I'm like, hey, if you had unlimited resources and you wanted to hide something where no one could find it, what's the one place on this planet where you could put it? And we're thinking about it. It's like dark side of the moon. I mean, it's in plain sight, but you can't go there. What are you going to do? How are you going to get it? So, and I don't know if there's anything on the dark side of the moon, but I'm just saying, I'm very skeptical of what's going on, even though I think there is a natural phenomenon. And I just hope that everyone, when they roll out the disclosure, you have to really think, what do you actually know? And you have to understand that this has been decades and decades of seemingly orchestrated propaganda for, I don't know to what end. I don't know why you would do it. I think we just call balls and strikes, and it is what it is. Disclosure Day is propaganda. I think Age of Disclosure to degree is propaganda. And I do think a lot of the people, like the filmmakers in that film and even these congressmen, they are what we would call useful idiots. I think that Burleson, I listened to an interview with him yesterday with Jesse Michaels, and he said that he didn't get into this until 2017, or not even 2017. He didn't get into it till he saw David Grush before Congress, which is okay, but it's this has been going on for a long time, and you have to understand that Grush is just he's just the latest guy to come out. And so I think there could be a lot of people that are being misled, and it could be a mix of truth and non-truth, but either way, they're kind of being turned into these useful idiots to go around on podcasts and say all kinds of things and never stop to go what do you really know? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I think that just about wraps us up for this. It's been a healthy return. We hope to keep it rolling and get back on the podcast schedule here very soon. So any last words? Sign off?
No last words.
All right. Well, listen.